Hello everyone, a very good morning, good afternoon and good evening to all. Myself Vaibhav. I welcome all of you to today's session of Visual JForex in which we will try to wrap up the algorithmic formations using the indicators EMA and MACD, the combination of exponential moving average and MACD. We will try to use to optimize the trade entries according to the trend. This session is going to be dedicated to get the sell side of this algorithm completed. So for this session, I will be explaining to you how we can define the conditions for the execution of the trade where we see if the underlying instrument is trending in the bearish manner. We can try to look for the optimum trade entries for the sell trade. So this is how we are going to proceed. For any sell trade to execute, we want this combination of the EMA to have the bearish tendency. For that, we are using the EMA crossover structure. We will need the 50 EMA to be on the lower side compared to the 100 EMA. So we will compare the output values of these two EMAs, and the bearish crossover should be there with the EMA 50 being lower than the EMA 100. And not only that, this crossover should have happened within last 25 hours. So for that, we will go back in time, and 25 hours back, it should have been in the reversed position. The EMA 50 should have been above the EMA 100, and only during the first 25 hours, the trade execution should happen. So we will be able to avoid this kind of situation where the turnaround starts to gain momentum, and even if in that scenario the MACD crossover happens, we won't be getting involved for a new trade. So that's what the logic is for this formation. And if the EMA combination is in place, we turn our attention to the MACD, and we will be executing new trade when we see the MACD line crossing below the MACD signal line. We will need the MACD to be below the MACD signal in the last hour's closing levels for the execution to take place, while in the prior hour the combination was in the different direction. The MACD should have been above the MACD signal, and only in the last hour it should have crossed below. So that's how this requirement is going to be. And also 5 hours back, the MACD should have been higher compared to the MACD signal. Okay, so now we get back to the Visual JForex board, which has been developed by the Dukascopy Bank SA to make the algorithm development easier. In the last session, I had explained to you how to get the instrument subscription done, where the Euro USD was used as the instrument of choice, the default instrument. After that, the position amount was defined at zero to make sure there is no existing open or pending position on the account prior to the execution of the new trade. And these two EMA indicator blocks with the hourly candle period were added with the look back period of 1 and the time period of 50 and 100 respectively. And these two have the look back period of 25, whereas the candle period and the time period is same as we had done for these two EMA blocks. After that, these MACD indicator blocks were added with the look back period of 1, 2, and 5 respectively. We have these get historical candle blocks with the candle period defined at hourly for these first 2 and 10 seconds for figuring out the exact entry point. And we had also defined various variables for defining the conditions for the execution of a buy trade. Now this session is going to be revolving around the sell side of the equation, and on the lower side we have put in place these conditions, and there is going to be a symmetrical formation. So the number of if blocks will be the same. We had used 12, so this time around also 12 if blocks will be utilized. And for that I will put in place 12 if blocks. Now coming to defining the conditions using the EMA, we need EMA 11, which is the last hour's EMA 50, to be less than the EMA 16, which is a 100 EMA for the last hour. So we need first input less than second input, and 25 hours back the EMA 50 should have been higher compared to the EMA 100. So EMA 17 needs to have been higher compared to the EMA 18. So here EMA 17 first input greater than EMA 18. Then we consider the MACD levels. MACD output values will need to be in the negative territory below 0 for last hour as well as 5 hours back. Only when we have the MACD in this bearish territory, we want the execution to go through. So for that, we compare the MACD output values to 0. First input less than second input. Here also first input less than second input. Again, first input less than second input. First input less than second input. Let's get this blocks where we have defined the conditions on the lower side. Okay. Now coming to further conditions, now we have to consider for the crossover formation. So we need in the last hour the MACD line to be less than MACD signal. So MACD 12 needs to be less than MACD signal 12. First input less than second input. And in the prior hour, in the second last hour, the MACD should have been greater than MACD signal. So here MACD input greater than MACD signal 12. Now we have to consider the price formation. We need last hour closing level to be less than opening price. So we have to consider candle 22nd, candle 23rd. The opening and closing prices of both these hourly candles will need to be compared. So I am going to consider auto created variables, candle 22nd, candle close will need to be less than candle 22nd candle open, first input less than second input, whereas in the prior hour the closing level should have been higher. So I am going to again consider the closing and opening prices, and this time the relation needs to be inverted, and after that the execution will go through as soon as price starts to drop below the last hour's closing level. First input greater than second input. Now again we have to consider the candle 22nd candle close as the common input, which we will then compare with the closing levels of candle 24th and candle 25th. Candle 22nd is the last hourly candle, and then we compare its value to the 10-second candles of candle 24 and candle 25th with the look back period of 1 and 2 respectively. This is the last 10-second candle, so it will need to have closed on the lower side, whereas candle 25th was the second last candle, and it will need to have closed on the lower side, higher side. And after that we get in the trade command block, pending open. First input greater than second input, and there will be a limit order, sell limit. All right. Now we have to define the input parameters for the trade command block. The execution price is going to be last hour's opening price. So we have to take candle 22nd candle open as the price of the execution. An order will be placed as soon as the price starts to drop below the last hour's closing level. So I'm going to take candle 22nd candle open price. Okay. The default instrument remains as it is. Trade amount I will change to 0.1 million. Slippage of 2 pips should be good enough. Stop loss and take profit, we will keep it in proportion of the last hour's closing and opening price difference. And as we need the last hour's closing level to be less than the opening price, we will have to deduct last hour's closing price from the opening price. Last time around we had deducted open price from the close. Now we have to reverse the calculation. and calculate the difference, and accordingly we will place the stop loss and take profit levels. For that we have to carry out three fresh calculations here. Now let's consider candle 20-second open price and close price. The calculation will be A1 minus A2. Okay, so this will be A1 minus A2. A1 minus A2, and here I will name this SSD, and whatever is the actual difference we will take twice of it as the stop loss. So this is the multiplying factor with the start value of 2 and the pip conversion factor with the start value of 10 raised to the power 4. So this will be A1 into A2 into A3, and this will be our stop loss level. I will name it SSL, and we assign this variable here. Twice of it will be take profit. So again, we have to multiply the stop loss level by 2 and we arrive at the take profit. So this will be A1 into A2, and I will create a new variable here. This will be named STP, and order validity we had defined last time around, which is 2 hours. So we use that variable as it is. Okay, so with this we have defined all the input parameters for this trade command block. Okay, so we have completed the sell side of the algorithm using this combination of the EMA and MACD. Let me color code it to check whether the trade iteration flow is going till the very end uninterrupted. Yes, it is. There is this overlap. Okay, now it's looking better. So that's it from my side for today's session. If you have any query or any idea to share, you can write back to me in the feedback section, and I would be more than happy to take the discussion forward. For further coverage of the market developments, do check out the Dukascopy Analytics page. We are also available on the Facebook. You can reach out to us there too. For carrying out the testing, you need the assistance of the JForex platform. So all these useful links have been provided in the bio. Thank you all for joining in. See you next time around. Till then, goodbye.